Have you ever stopped to think that an ancient prophecy might be about to come true exactly in 2025? What you thought you knew about the future is about to be turned upside down. A mystery hidden for centuries with surprising details now reveals a truth no one expected. What happens in the coming years could change everything as we know it. Here's the secret. Those who like and subscribe before this video ends unlock an incredible wave of good luck. Don't miss your chance. Did you know that there were documents so secret that they could change our view of humanity's future? In forgotten libraries and private collections, there are scrolls and mysterious texts that speak of events that only now begin to make sense. These manuscripts, almost lost to history, are not just relics of the past. They are messages from the future, revealing unsettling details about 2025. What's even more curious, many of these documents were never accessed by modern eyes, and their secrets were hidden right before us. In particular, texts like those found in the Qumran caves near the Dead Sea reference a time of great transformation. Others, more obscure, were in the possession of secret societies whose intentions were as mysterious as the writings themselves. When studied closely, these manuscripts reveal a surprising timeline where global changes are not a coincidence, but part of a millennial plan. These are details that, until now, were ignored or even discredited, but over time, they are proving to be alarmingly accurate. And the most intriguing part comes now. What do these texts tell us about what's to come in the next few years? If the predictions described there are correct, we are on the verge of a critical turning point where the choices made by humanity in 2025 could seal everyone's fate. But there's something more, something that connects these writings to events we haven't even imagined yet. The next chapter of this story reveals how the predictions of the prophecy align with the reality we are about to live. What if I told you that a prophecy from centuries ago predicts a global collapse that will happen exactly in 2025? No, this is not science fiction. It's a revelation that comes from ancient, almost forgotten texts that point to catastrophic events and social transformations on a scale we never imagined. The prophecy speaks of a time when humanity will face unimaginable challenges, both in the natural and technological realms. But what's even more surprising is that, according to these texts, all of this was already predicted, and now we are about to live that reality. The prophecy doesn't just describe natural disasters like tsunamis, earthquakes, and unprecedented storms, but also speaks of something even more terrifying: the breakdown of global political and economic systems. It warns of the fall of great empires and the rise of new dominant forces, which may bring a new balance to the world or lead it to the brink of self-destruction. And what's even more disturbing, some of the signs have already begun to manifest, such as the rise in geopolitical tensions, the uncontrolled advancement of technology, and the growing social inequality. It seems we are living exactly what the ancient texts predicted. But the lingering question is, how can we prepare for what's to come? Are the answers to these problems really hidden in the pages of these ancient prophecies? The key to understanding what's coming in 2025 may lie in the fine print of the texts that have been neglected for so long. And the next chapter of this story reveals how these predictions connect with current events, offering a direction for humanity, if, of course, we can act in time. Have you ever stopped to wonder if the events we are living through are really coincidences, or if there is something bigger at play? What once seemed like a series of disconnected events now starts to make sense when we place the ancient prophecies alongside current reality. Rising political tension, global economic crises, and even extreme natural phenomena, all of this was already predicted in texts from centuries ago. Are we, in fact, following a path that was traced long before we were born? These connections between the past and present are more than mere coincidences. The prophetic texts, dating back thousands of years, describe with startling accuracy events unfolding right before our eyes. The arms race, uncontrolled technological advancements, and even the social uprisings spreading across the globe. What's most impressive is that even without today's science or resources, these writings manage to predict our times with such precision. And if we believe in the truth of these prophecies, the inevitable question arises: what else will be revealed about our future? One of the most surprising revelations is how some of these predictions are almost like a manual for what's happening right now. What once seemed like vague descriptions now become alarmingly clear. What appeared to be just a repetitive historical cycle may, in fact, be a series of warnings humanity is failing to perceive. This leads us to question if we are truly in control of our destiny, or if there is something or someone manipulating the course of events. Now, with all this in mind, the next question becomes even more intriguing. What if the future wasn't as uncertain as we thought? What if the key to what will happen in 2025 is already in our hands, even without us knowing it? The next chapter will reveal details that could forever change the way we view history and what lies ahead, making it clear that what has already been written may no longer be avoidable. What if I told you that 2025 will be the year that decides humanity's future? We're not talking about just another common year, but a turning point that could define whether our civilization will thrive or succumb to chaos. The ancient prophecies speak of a decisive moment that's about to come, and everything points to this year as the climax of a millennial cycle. The most frightening part is that, according to these texts, what happens in 2025 depends directly on the choices we make now, and time is running out. These choices are not simple individual decisions, but collective actions that will determine the course of the planet. The prophecies speak of a global division where nations will have to choose between following a path of unity and reconstruction, or succumbing to selfishness and destruction. The rise of new powers and the collapse of old structures are just the surface of what's at stake. What's deeper and more revealing is that humanity is being called to act. But the crucial question remains, who is truly ready to make the right choice? The final warning present in many prophetic texts is clear. If humanity fails to choose the path of cooperation and balance, the consequences will be devastating. These texts warn of the acceleration of natural disasters, social collapse, and even the threat of relentless global control. The message is clear: it's now or never. If we act together, we have a chance to avoid the worst scenarios. Otherwise, we could be dragged into a cycle of destruction that's already been drawn, but that's still in our hands to reverse. But the truth is that despite the warnings, many continue to ignore the signs. Indifference, fear, and skepticism push us away from the necessary action to change the destiny awaiting us. Every day that passes, the clock moves closer to the final moment, and for some, it may already be too late to reverse the consequences. However, there is still one last chance, a chance that can only be seized if we act urgently and wisely, uniting forces for a future we can choose. Now, with the pressure mounting and the world at a crossroads, we are left with one crucial question. Did the 2025 prophecies really offer us a window of opportunity, or are we doomed to follow an inevitable path? The next step in this journey will unveil the spiritual and philosophical connections that may give us the key to deciding our fate. Have you ever wondered if the ancient scriptures truly predicted what we are living today? Many don't know, but verses from sacred texts, like the Bible, speak of a future that's eerily similar to what we're facing right now. In passages from books like Revelation and Daniel, there are descriptions of events that echo the current global catastrophes and tensions, such as wars, economic crises, and devastating natural phenomena. The question is, are we living the fulfillment of these ancient prophecies, or are we simply being guided by a historical coincidence? Passages like Revelation 6, which speaks of the pale horse and death spreading across the earth, depict a scenario many interpret as a reference to pandemics, wars, and global collapse. The verse describes great famine and unprecedented devastation, something that, for many, has already begun to manifest in the form of economic and social crises. What's striking is how these texts, written millennia ago, align so precisely with current events. Some scholars say we're witnessing the second coming of these situations, with apocalyptic signs that can no longer be ignored. Another verse that stands out is in Daniel 12:4, where it speaks of a time of increasing knowledge and confusion among the masses. Does this sound familiar? Technology and information, once sources of hope, have become instruments of misinformation and control. Societies are more polarized than ever, with deep divisions over virtually everything, from politics to personal beliefs. Did Daniel predict this? If so, what does that imply for humanity, which now finds itself on the brink of a new period of transformation where the old paths seem to be fading? The true key to understanding these spiritual implications may lie in the connections between these verses and the choices ahead of us. Are we, on a deep level, being called to align our actions with a greater purpose? The apocalyptic messages are not necessarily a harbinger of destruction, but of radical change. The scriptures warn us not just about the dangers of the path, but also offer us a chance for redemption if we are able to choose the right way. Free will, as mentioned in various prophecies, will be what determines whether we get a chance to change the course of history. Now, as the signs intensify, the central question remains: are we ready to embrace the lessons from these ancient words, or will we continue to ignore the warnings that have been given to us? The next step in this journey will reveal even more secrets about how these spiritual messages can guide us, showing the possible transformation of our choices and whether we are capable of reversing what seems to be an inevitable destiny. Are we really prepared for what's coming in 2025? Time is running out, and signs are everywhere, pointing to drastic changes that will affect humanity in ways we still can't fully understand. The ancient prophecies, which once seemed distant or even unreal, now take on a new relevance as current events align with their predictions. The big question is, will we be able to change our course before it's too late? Or are we already bound to a fate we can no longer avoid? The ancient texts speak of a time of choice where humanity will face an existential dilemma. What once seemed a distant future is now an imminent reality. But even with all the signs around us, many still ignore or doubt the gravity of the situation. History shows that when civilizations face moments of crisis, the human response isn't always what we expect. Fear, inaction, and selfishness are powerful forces that can drag us to destruction, even when we have all the tools to avoid the worst. However, the prophecies also offer a ray of hope. They're not just predictions of catastrophe, but warnings that we can change our actions and reverse the damage before the point of no return is reached. As a society, we have the opportunity to decide what we will do with the choices before us. We can unite, rethink our future, and take meaningful steps to turn crises into opportunities for growth and renewal. The power of change is in our hands, but it requires courage and action. The challenge now is to wake up to this reality. Will we continue to live in denial, ignoring the signs around us, or will we be wise enough to act while there's still time? The prophecies offer us a map, but the journey depends on the choices we make each day. The future is not written in stone. It's fluid, and our decisions can change everything. But for that to happen, we must first recognize the depth of the situation we find ourselves in. What comes next is even more intriguing. In the next video, we'll explore how these ancient prophecies connect with the invisible forces shaping our destiny. You'll understand how certain historical figures and crucial events may have been part of a bigger plan. So if you don't want to miss this revelation, subscribe to the channel now and activate notifications. Don't miss what's coming. The future is closer than we think, and you'll want to be prepared for everything.